Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I love reporting particularly on issues that will be happening across Africa, not just Zimbabwe, but across Africa, it's not just because I'm obsessed with African politics or South African politics per se, but because some of the challenges, most of the challenges that we face in our different African countries, they are actually similar. They might be different in dynamics and what, but when you really look at it, the intricacies, the delicacies, the of the problems, they are actually similar. We face quite similar challenges in Southern Africa. If it's not corruption, it's incompetence. If not incompetence, it's misgovernance. If it's not misgovernance, it's nepotism. A whole lot of the Ndondonis, they are actually similar. In this video that I'm going to show you is actually a good demonstration of the illustration that I'm going to make. This is Julius Malema addressing the ANC in South Africa, which is the liberation stalwart in South Africa. And the issue that he raises, the same issue that we see in Zimbabwe, is the same issue that we see in Mozambique, in Namibia, in Zambia even. Before I get ahead of myself, let us just listen to it.
The so-called liberators of our country were not prepared for the day after victory because they had no political will or intention to reverse the cardinal sin of land theft and the monopolization of our minerals by a white minority. The EFF, whose moment is 2024, cannot afford to make this mistake. We must never make the mistake of winning the battle, and then because we never prepared for victory, our role becomes to constantly remind our people of the battles we have won in the past. Lindiwe Sisulu is the most uneducated and foolish minister you can think of. Every time she opens her mouth, instead of telling people about what she's doing, she's consistently reminding them of how she fought in the bush and how they liberated us, creating an impression that we owe her and her colleagues something. We owe them nothing. No one sent them to the bush. They went because they wanted to go to challenge the material condition at the time. And therefore, they must never behave like we owe them anything. We don't owe them anything. We have actually honored them by electing them in 1994. For 30 years, we have been thanking them, and 30 years is enough to thank those who have liberated us.
30 years is enough for those who have liberated them. They say 30 years is enough in South Africa. And how many years are enough in your own home country to thank the liberation stalwarts for liberating you? How many years should you continue electing them in office for solely the ticket that they actually fought the war? You see many revolutionary parties, many liberation parties. I can give an example of Zanu PF in Zimbabwe. You can actually see that the main agenda of their manifesto or their plea to get the support or votes from people is to say, we fought for you. We gave you the liberation. So in a way, when you don't vote for them, they feel like you are disrespecting them or you are not honoring them for their sacrifices that they made during the war. But in reality, is it what should happen? Should they hold these liberation parties in Southern Africa? Should they hold their citizens? Should they hold the country at ransom solely because they went to war? Should it be the case? That is the case that Julius Malema is addressing and says in South Africa. They actually thanked them in 1994 when they voted them. And they've thanked them for 30 years and he feels that it is enough. The country should move on. Liberation stalwarts can be honored, but still be voting someone else who is competent to do the job. Fresh minds, young people. Not just dragging the whole country into conversations that most of the citizens, actually the young people, they are not interested in a war that the young people don't even remember. Yes, of course they honor. Of course they don't take it lightly, but it doesn't mean that the decision on democracy should be solely based on a war that was fought 40, 50 years ago. So you see, the issues that we face in Southern Africa, they are actually just the same. And I really liked it when you talked about the ANC in South Africa taking over, but not ready to deal with the problems that were going to be faced. They were not ready. They took over, but they were not ready. And that is the same issue that you see in many Southern African countries, liberation countries. For example, I always want to give examples of my country, Zimbabwe, because it really gives perspective or my understanding. When I'm reporting on issues from other countries, I would understand it through the lens of a Zimbabwean, through the glasses of a Zimbabwean. So I give you an example. 1980, we get independence. And after we got independence, did we improve from what the Rhodesians had done, or we actually digressed? If we actually did the opposite of improve from what the Rhodesians had done, it actually means when they took over, they didn't have a plan of what they were going to do once they are in office. They didn't have. Another good example, the land reform. Of course, I believe that land reform was actually a correction of a historical era where the land had been stolen from the black natives. But now that we have planned to take back the land, do we have a plan of what we are going to do with the land when we take it? Do we have? That is the question that was supposed to be answered before the land was taken. This is the plan, this is how we are going to use the land, and this is how we are going to succeed in using the land. But now, we got the land, and after we got the land, what did we do with it? We struggled, because we didn't have a plan of what we should do post taking that land. So that is the issue that Julius Malema is addressing, that should they become the government in 2024, they are already planning that they will do this right, they will do this right, they will do this right. They would not just wake up in office, and after they wake up in office, they don't know what they should be doing. Or else they will still blame apartheid, they will still blame whoever was in office before them. The same way that we see even in Zimbabwe, we blame colonizers, we blame the whites, we blame a whole lot of ndon because we don't have a plan of what we should be doing after we get the reins. Ladies and gentlemen, tell me if I am making sense. Of course, Julius Malema is making sense, but my additions to my sort to make a sense here. And with that, I'm out. Membero dzangu dzazove pedo muchandishambadza kunge zigo tichakudana ikumabiko.